talk a little bit about bee sting allergies today. My name is Sean Sori. If you have come to this meeting today, you probably have some questions about bee sting allergies, about what BeeAware is, and maybe why I'm dressed like a bee. So my hopes are that I answer all of those questions for you by the end of this. And if I don't, please write down any questions you may have, and we can answer them at the end of the show. Oh, here we go. So first and foremost, this is a procedure. However, it also is a prescription drug, so we do have a black box warning. I do have to put this up there because we're dealing with something that's prescription-based, and this is something that's done in an allergist's office. So there's going to be three main things we're going to be focusing on here. Number one, the problem of stinging insect allergies. Number two, venom immunotherapy as a proactive solution. And number three, probably most importantly, the importance of awareness and referrals around this topic. So why this matters. Anybody that's in the room ever been stung by a bee? Yes. Okay, good stuff. Anybody have any close ones to them that have a very severe allergy to bees? No? Yes. Yes, okay, good. So why does this matter? This matters because as a healthcare advocate, a family member, and a friend, you play a key role in advocating for the patient to let them know that there's awareness around the proactive treatment of venom immunotherapy. So I want you to just think for a second here. You're out camping with your family. You are with your loved ones, and you're out in an area where there is no cell phone service. You are getting everything set up, and unfortunately, one of the members of your party has the unfortunate event of getting stung by a bee. Maybe it's a younger person. They don't know whether they're allergic or not, but all of a sudden they start getting shortness of breath. All of a sudden it starts to get a little bit scary, and they start to have what's considered a systemic reaction. Now you're on a mountain, you're in the woods, you have no cell phone service, you've got to get out of there, and you've got to get that person medical attention. So you do that, massively afraid. And the more afraid you are, the more afraid the person is that's experiencing the systemic reaction. And I say these things to you not so that you get scared, but because this is a real situation. And we'll see a live event of something like this that played out later. But that first reaction is not the reaction that usually hurts someone. It's usually the second or third sting afterwards, after you have that systemic reaction. The first one just turns the system on. And it's the second or third one that can actually do the damage of not only a systemic reaction, but an anaphylactic reaction, and you can pass away. So who are the culprits? So we've got honeybees, yellow jackets, yellow hornets, white-faced hornets, and wasps. There's many stinging insects all over the world. These ones will cover them, though, through cross-reactivity. What do I mean by cross-reactivity? I mean that if you're tested and treated with these 5, you're going to be covered. So after one systemic reaction, like I said, the risk of a similar or more severe reaction increases by 20 to 60%. 16 million Americans right now are living with a potentially life-threatening stinging insect allergy. And severe anaphylactic reactions account for at least 40 to 100 deaths per year, depending on the year. So this is a massively important topic, and there is a proactive solution. Right now, the first line of defense is going to be an epinephrine shot, or now the new nasal epinephrine. But while it's a deadly allergy, 70% of allergy patients fail to carry their epinephrine consistently, and more than 55% of patients fail to demonstrate administration. Every single year that goes by, some of those people that pass away with the epinephrine autoinjector in their hand. So 2 things to consider. Number 1, why should a deadly allergy prevent patients from peace of mind outdoors? And the second, why is a reactionary treatment considered the first line of defense? So this is a real example of a father and a son that had a very similar situation that I talked about earlier when I asked you to imagine that through. So hopefully it's going to play. Whoops. Should be a video. Yeah, when it was sent over, it was.
See what this does. At least we can watch it from here. At the very least, and I can get it back for you.
Jay got stung on the back of his head.
First, my ears started hurting. My eyes swelled shut.
It was the
That's okay. Old school's fine with me.
Jay got stung on the back of his head.
First, my ears started hurting. My eyes swelled shut.
It was the most traumatic hour of my life as a mother.
We went into the urgent care.
And that's what brought us to the clinic.
Jay got stung on the back of his head.
First, my ears started hurting. My eyes swelled shut.
It was the most traumatic hour of my life as a mother.
We went into the urgent care.
And that's what brought us to the clinic, to get the immunotherapy.
There's extremely effective treatment for it, and they do not have to live their life in fear.
I'm gonna be like even better getting stung than an average person, so that's cool. It's like having a superpower or something like that.
I can just go over it. It's okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah. So basically in the video, we have a situation where a father had an anaphylactic or a systemic reaction, and then come to find out his son also had a similar reaction to a bee sting. They went to see an allergist in Spokane, Washington. Dr. Kernerman was the physician there that was talking about it and talking about the efficacy of venom immunotherapy, which is, if done correctly, oops, am I good? Here?
I'm trying to get back over here. Sorry, man.
That's okay.
Try this here. Here we go. Here we go. Control that.
Got it. I think we're good. As Dr. Kernerman mentioned in the video, it is 98% effective when done correctly. And this treatment significantly reduces the risk of systemic reaction for stinging insect allergy patients. What this means is if you've had a systemic reaction, you can go into it, you're obviously going to probably go to the emergency room, and they should be referring you to either your primary care or an allergist. Sadly, very, very often that is not the case, and that does not happen, which is why more and more we need people advocating for this. So venom immunotherapy, I've used this phrase a couple of times. I want to make sure that I make sure everyone knows what it means. It's a series of allergy shots. It's provided in a clinic, typically with an allergist. It's a treatment that desensitizes patients to a stinging insect venom. It is natural. It is the venom of the bee itself. There's nothing added to it. It works like a vaccine in the patient's body, but you're only using the venom from the bee that they're allergic to. And it's the only proactive treatment option for stinging insect allergies. So this is where I get to talk a little bit and brag a little bit about what we do back in Spokane. So we are the only manufacturer of venom for venom immunotherapy in North America. We ship it all over the country, but this is somebody that's actually dissecting bees that have been collected. So we have thousands of pounds of insects that are shipped to us every year through collectors. It's sustainably harvested, so a lot of people get worried about honeybees. We're sustainably harvesting them, and they get sent to us, and we pull venom sac by venom sac out of each one of the bees, And you can imagine 130,000 insects actually go into one batch of product. So this is a massively manual process for someone every single day. We have 8 people sitting around a table, and this is all they're doing is pulling venom sacs for the bee sting venoms. Once it's collected and once it's processed, we then fill it into aseptic vials, and then we freeze dry it through lyophilization. And then once it's released and goes through about 15 quality checks, we ship this globally. All right. So, in the clinic, testing and treatment. What we try to do when we determined a VIT candidate is you look at the history, you do a preparation, you do skin prick testing, and then you follow that with intradermal dilution testing, and then you make some recommendations. Now there's 2 types of testing. There's skin testing, and then there's blood testing. Blood testing takes a little bit longer, and skin testing is the preferred method because it's more accurate. With blood testing, you can miss some patients, so the recommendation is to do both. That way you get about 98% accuracy when you're doing the test. This is a quote by Dr. James Tracy, who officially wrote the book on venom, or one of the books on venom. So once you've tested a patient, then what will happen is they will see how allergic they are, or if they're allergic to the 5 different species of venoms that we talked about earlier. If a good candidate for venom immunotherapy, the duration of that is about 3 to 5 years. They consult with the patient to let them know that. The first phase of that is a build-up phase. You're building up your system. Like I said, you're using your own using your own immune system to build up. The first, I'd say 21 weeks or so are going to be coming in once a week. Then you're going to be doing a shot every 4 weeks throughout the rest of the duration. After it's done, you significantly reduce the risk of anaphylaxis for a decade to the life of the patient. So one of the misconceptions right now is that it's not covered by insurance. That's what we commonly hear, or a fear of the patient, like, I can't pay out of pocket for something like this. So this is where advocacy comes in, because I have yet to see an insurance company that does not reimburse for the testing or the treatment. The real issue that we've found is there's just no awareness that this is out there. So how are we building awareness? That's where we get into the advocacy program of BeeAware. We started BeeAware about 7 years ago, and what this does is this is a direct-to-patient advocacy program to let them know that there is a proactive solution and that there are ways that they can tackle this and have a better quality of life and have a life-saving therapy. In our program, we've put out commercials. But to reach the number of patients that we would like to reach, we need help. We need advocacy programs such as this to help us out. When you go to the BeeAware website, we have got a lot of different patient educational materials, but we are branding this all over social media, streaming platforms. We're now on WebMD, and we're going to conferences like this one. So the reason that I was asked to do this is because patients need healthcare advocates like the people in this room and the people at this meeting to start the conversations with other healthcare professionals. As I said, it's somewhat disconcerting. Some ER physicians, when we spoke with them, and primary care physicians didn't even know that this was something that existed. It's something we want to get the word out on, and we want to have advocates to educate patients on testing and venom immunotherapy and how effective it actually is, and most importantly, to refer. As I said before, a patient needs a referral to go on venom immunotherapy. They either need it from the ER or from the physician. Now, they can self-refer, but they'll probably also be asked for some sort of referral. So how to get started? So if you go to BeeAwareAllergy.com, you'll find informational articles, you'll find a Find an Allergist, you'll find a social media toolkit, and you'll find free educational handouts, but it's not just for patients that are allergic to bees. It can be useful for anybody. We've got tear-off pads in terms of how to avoid stinging insects, what to do once you're stung, how to identify what bee you've been stung by. One of the things, just as an example, is a lot of the times if someone gets stung and you look down at your arm, the stinger's still there. Well, it's very common for someone just to pull it out. Well, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're actually now injecting that venom into your arm. So what you're supposed to do is take something flat like a credit card to scrape the stinger off. That way it does not inject your arm with the rest of the venom that's in that stinger. So things like that. There's all sorts of great information. But the question of being, what can you do now? If you scan this QR code, it will take you to that BeeAwareAllergy.com, and you can actually fill out the form and order anything on there, and it's free of charge. There is no charge to any of the educational materials. You can give this to your school nurses. You can give this to coaches. You can give this to family members that may have a bee sting allergy, or you could keep it for yourself, some of those how to avoid stinging insects. There's what we've put up, and I would love it if you could take the time to take a look through some of the things that we have. It will help you to refer your friends and family to the proper treatment. And then partner with BeeAware Allergy. It's our mission to provide resources and assistance to people with severe stinging insect allergies, and we're partnering with nonprofits and advocacy groups just like this one all over the country because it's a life-saving treatment that protects patients and improves the quality of life. I will answer any questions that any of you may have. I think that thank you very much. I think that there's a microphone, or do I have to take this one around? And I'll talk at the podium. No, it's perfectly fine. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
So I have a question. I apologize if you talked about this in the beginning. I'll admit I walked in a little late.
No problem.
Does this also work for fire or the red ants? Fire stinging?
It is, yeah. So we talk a lot today about the stinging insects, just the bees, but yes, it works for fire ants as well. The only thing different is I showed that video of how we extract the venom from the bees. The two things that are different are fire ants and honeybee. So with honeybee, when we have them go across an electric mat and we give them a little charge and then they release venom involuntarily and then we scrape that venom off glass. With fire ant, when we collect it and we process it, it's the whole ant. But yes, it is utilized and it's considered a stinging insect allergy.
And it also takes around the same maintenance phase and duration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, duration's the same. The maintenance is a little bit different because when you're dealing with the bees, you're dealing specifically with the venom from them. So you can quantify that in micrograms. In terms of the fire ant, it's done weight to volume. So a little bit different structure, but still a 3 to 5 year plan, but very, very efficacious for the patient.
Okay, good to know.
Yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So you said the therapy is covered by most insurances?
Yeah, yes, it is. So thank you. Great question. We have not found an insurance that it's not covered by. It's covered by CMS. It's covered by private carriers. Now, the amount to which they cover it in terms of reimbursement does vary, just like anything else. But yes, it is covered.
So is there some criteria that needs to be met, like needs to have some kind of event?
Yes.
One or two events, or a certain level of event, or?
Thank you. Yes. So once a patient goes into the ER with a systemic reaction, they are a candidate now for venom immunotherapy
So
to
just
go
one
get
event.
tested.
I'll take-
Just
so
one
just one
event. And that's good too, because that's like your body giving you that red flag that this is a problem. And generally speaking, that first sting is not going to be the one that really has the detrimental effect. It's the second or third one after that. So that gives you like the flag to say, go get checked out. And sadly, what happens is people will go to an emergency room and they're so busy with everything else that's going on that they say, here's a prescription for an EpiPen, stabilize, let's get you out of here. Maybe even go see your primary care physician. But very, very rarely, unless the allergists have made really good relationships with the ER physicians to let them know this is an actual therapy. They don't have any idea of what to do afterwards other than carry around an EpiPen and hope they know how to use it. So,
Could you clarify when you say systemic reaction? I feel like you came here to talk to me about my brother-in-law and what just happened to him. When you say systemic reaction, do you mean more than one quadrant, or can you clarify that a little for me?
Yes, I will try, but that confused me, that last little portion of it. There's two types of reactions that can happen when you have a venom sting, a bee sting. It's local reaction and systemic. Local, it's your skin may puff up, you may have irritability around the area, bruising, and so it's just local to the skin. Systemic's more of shortness of breath, heart racing, confusion.
What if it spreads up the limb and the swelling continues?
Yeah, so if the swelling continues, I would still advise to go to the emergency room, and they would likely let that person get skin tested. And realistically, it's just being an advocate for yourself when you go in there too, and saying, this scared the heck out of me. I want to make sure I'm not deathly allergic to these things, and I want to see which bees I'm allergic to. And for the most part, I don't think that an allergist would turn it down. So, did your brother, did he go to the ER?
Yeah, so we were in Podunk, nowhere, Kentucky, and he was stung by a wasp. And like many of us, had bee stings as a kid, and it was a bee sting, and it was fine. This time, a wasp got him on the hand, and within 2 hours, it looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow, and then it went to the wrist, and then it kept going up the arm, and by the time 4 o'clock the next morning came, his whole arm had swollen, and he took Benadryl. After it happened, he even tried like the baking soda and water paste. I can assure you he pulled the stinger out. And he went to the ER. There was no allergy testing recommended or suggested. It was like, oh, well, here, let's give you a shot and take down the swelling and send him on his way. So,
Yeah, sadly, that's very common, and that's why I do what I do, and I try to make sure people know more about that there's an option, but it's not uncommon that that's what happens at the ER.
So with that level of reaction, would you then recommend that he get tested because the second and third reaction could be full anaphylaxis? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Who else has questions?
All right. And you said there's people online. Is there anybody online watching that we need to have any questions? All right. Well, I will close things down. I told you I would answer why I'm dressed like a bee. I told you I'd answer all the other questions. Melissa and Beth asked me to dress like a bee. I told them no stinger, but I will do this for them because I actually really, really believe in what they're doing here. And my hopes are that we can incorporate this into something that helps out with the advocacy as well. Thank you for coming. I do have a couple bees if you want to come up and grab one from me. I appreciate you sitting around. And unless you have any other questions, I will be at the happy hour. So I wish you all a great rest of your meeting. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for your time.